Good afternoon everyone. I'd like to introduce myself. Edel.kelly is my name. I work as a recruitment consultant and I want to thank you for coming here today for this brief presentation. Basically what I'm going to talk to you about today is what an employer is looking for in job applicants, and if you have any questions feel free to go through them as I'm presenting it. So I suppose the first thing that people really struggle with in terms of their application is a cover letter. So I wanted to give you a few quick pointers that if you are sending out a CV, a good strong cover letter always helps. So I suppose the first thing you should say in it is who you are and the type of job that you're looking for. For example, I'm a quality engineer currently working in Craigana and I'm looking for a quality supervisor role. What relevant skills you have and how you would apply them to the job that's been advertised. What do you understand of what's required of you? Also, I suppose, have a very professional attitude in terms of a very professionally laid out CV and cover letter always really help. So obviously have it typed up and show that you've taken the time to get to know the business. So in terms of, I currently see you're opening a new division in the Moore facility. I'm delighted to read that in the paper, so it shows you've done your research. And that it's concise and business-like. There's no point in making it too long or they'll get bored reading it, and you want it to stand out as well. And also you want to get across that you really want the job. And I put an example in there as well that you can go through. So I suppose the key thing then really would be the CV. First of all, your CV should be easy to read, and there shouldn't be any complicated terms that are associated with the company that you work in that wouldn't transfer across. There shouldn't be any inconsistencies. Obviously there should be no gaps in your CV. The format of your CV is very important in that it's clear and easy to read, and then finally there's no mistakes or typos on your CV. You should outline your skills and experience also. It should make an impact in terms of you coming across as a very strong candidate. You should have your roles and responsibilities outlined in your CV as well, and obviously your experience highlighted. Any results or achievements, any key projects that you've done. Education, it should be easy to read, and also it should flow very easily.
What do you mean then by results and achievements? Like what would you include there?
I suppose I'd include something that's quite relevant and something that's quite recent. So for example, if you've won an Irish medal when you were 6, there's no point in putting that in. A medal, for Irish dancing, there's no point in putting that in. Whereas if you've completed a project on time and within budget, then I'd certainly discuss that in your CV and put in an example of that as well. That would be very relevant. So anything you feel that's relevant to the role. And if you go through the job spec in detail, Kirby, there's quite a lot of hints in there as to what they're looking for, so you can really tailor your CV towards it.
Thank you.
Anything, John, that you wanted to ask? Okay. So I suppose the frightening statistic there is that an average employer spends 30 seconds going through your CV, so you want to really make a good first impression and have it make an impact on them. Obviously if they're going through a lot of CVs, you want yours to stand out from the crowd. So you should avoid going through your life history, like I mentioned there, events that happened when you were a child wouldn't be that relevant, or hobbies that aren't that relevant. Make sure that you always tell the truth on your CV and you're consistent. Make sure that you've explained any gaps or dates where you might have been out of the country, for example. And also a good idea is to include a kind of a summary profile of yourself as well on your CV. So all that makes for really good reading. I suppose what they don't want to see on your CV then is spelling mistakes, particularly for quality oriented roles. If it's too duty oriented, as in it's like a cut and paste from a job description, sometimes I get CVs in and they really look like they've been cut and paste from a job description from a specific company, and they certainly don't want to see that. They want it very much alive, a person-oriented CV that's really specific as to what you did. They don't want any inaccurate or dishonest information, so make sure that your CV, all the facts on it are correct. They don't want any poor formatting, and I suppose one thing to avoid as well on the CV is long paragraphs. Ideally what you should have is bullet points down along explaining each responsibility that you've had. Any questions on that?
You just kind of touched on personal profile there a second ago, Edel. How would you differentiate between the personal profile and cover letter? Because sometimes I find that they have a bit of crossover in terms of what I'm looking for, describing myself.
Yeah, I would say the profile should probably be about 3 to 4 lines about yourself and then saying at the end what you're looking for. Whereas the cover letter is more an introduction. I saw a role advertised on a quality engineer at the moment type of format.
Okay, perfect.
John, any questions for you?
Yes, just one regarding the formatting. Would you recommend using a template regarding formatting?
Well, for medical devices, I know they recommend you to use Times Roman numeral, either 10 or 11 font. That would be the recognised format to use in medical devices. It's quite a clear one to use, and you should use that throughout. I would also avoid any kind of fancy graphics or boxes or anything like that, because most companies now have systems that they upload it onto the system, and if there's any boxes or graphics or fancy fonts, it won't actually accept that. Photographs don't really transfer across that well either. So I would say keep it simple, let it flow well, have your bullet points under each responsibility. Use bold maybe to highlight work experience, and then put the bullet points down underneath in that. Have the dates clearly highlighted in it, and have each heading in the same font size and style. Okay? There's no point in putting in any information that's not related to the job either, as it's not relevant, so you're only wasting the person's time. I suppose the 10 skills that would be very popular at the moment with employers, from what we can see in recruitment, would be teamwork, somebody who has an ability to make decisions and problem solving, someone's ability to plan, organise and prioritise their workload, somebody who has good communication skills both inside and outside the organisation. And by communication I mean verbal, written, emails, on the phone, Skype, etc. Somebody that can obtain and process information and an ability to analyse data. Technical knowledge related to job obviously is important. Good computer proficiency, an ability to create, edit written reports, and an ability to sell and influence others. So that's just some, I suppose, examples of skills or competencies that are required. Obviously it depends really on the role that you're applying for. I suppose in terms of things then that are good to do at an interview, first of all, you should try and dress appropriately. Wear something that's quite professional. Don't wear too much makeup for the ladies, and for the guys then, obviously any tattoos or piercings or anything like that, cover those up, and go easy on the perfume or aftershave. Get as much information as possible prior to the interview. Prepare answers to a range of competency-based questions that are going to be asked, and again you'll get a lot of hints and tips from the job spec as well, and from the recruitment agency. Put yourself in the interviewer's seat, what kind of questions you think they'd ask, and finally I suppose keep your body language open and have a good firm handshake and good eye contact as well. Okay, then I suppose on the flip side of the coin then, what are the don'ts? So don't be negative about your previous employer, because that always comes across as being quite a pessimistic way, and employers don't really like you to badmouth a past employer. Don't discuss your salary at the first interview. This is something that would take place at a later stage in the interview process. Don't let your discouragement show, battle on, even if you think you got a question that kind of you're a bit wobbly on, just keep going as positively as you can. Don't over answer questions. There's nothing worse than somebody waffling in an interview. Don't get defensive by crossing the arms and letting the barriers go up. Always try and stay positive, and don't be overly ambitious in the interview either. Okay, that's pretty much it. I'm going to open it up to you there, just in terms of any questions you have. John, do you want to kick off there with a question?
With regards to clothes in the interview, and you recommend hiding jewellery and say watches,
yeah,
stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose for a lot of the roles based in Galway at the moment, a lot of them are in medical device companies. So they would recommend that you don't wear too much jewellery to an interview, or for the ladies too much makeup or aftershave for the guys. Keep it simple, keep it professional. If you're wearing a suit, you know, wear something very simple and professional looking. Don't dress casually. Jeans obviously wouldn't be appropriate for the interviews that you're going for. Generally it would be, you know, professional dress would be required. And I suppose because they say that employers make up their mind within the first 5 seconds of meeting you, a good firm handshake is always the first thing, and good eye contact as well. So as a recruitment agency, we would always practice that with you. So let's say, John, for example, we put you in for a role and we work in accountancy, and if you're called for a role, say an interview as an accountant, we practice all the interview prep with you. Your recruitment consultant normally would meet with you, she'd prep you for all the eventualities of the interview. We'll go through some questions with you, practice your eye contact and your handshake, and advise you on what to wear as well in terms of it. Okay, anything else?
Yes, at the end of the interview when they ask you for questions, what questions do you recommend?
Okay, so I suppose the maximum amount of questions you should have really would be 2. There's nothing worse than someone going into interview and having a long list of questions. So what you don't want is for the tables to turn for the person to be interviewing you, or interviewing the person. So keep it short and keep it that the questions are ones that really show you've done your research on the role. Or some of the questions you can actually almost put yourself in the role. So, you know, if you asked, well, say if it was a role for an analytical chemist, you know, how many HPLC columns do you have at the moment? We have 23. What types of systems do you use? We use LIMS. Well, I actually was involved in a project where we implemented LIMS in my time in Aragon, and I had quite a lot of experience of implementing LIMS in that company. So they could kind of have that then as the last impression of you when you leave the interview, and that would stick in their head. So it's almost like putting you into the role. Okay. Kirby, any questions from you?
You said there don't be negative about employers or experiences, but say if you've left a position for some reason that the company, maybe in regards to management there's restructuring, and perhaps it wasn't a good experience, how would you kind of phrase that?
I suppose it doesn't really need to come out in an interview. If there is a situation that arose that, you know, wasn't a very positive situation, that would probably come out in reference check.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something you discuss with your recruitment professional. They flag it with the person first, be it a personality clash or something that happened that was beyond your control.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly in an interview, I keep it as positive as possible, and, you know, don't bring personalities into it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I suppose that will come out at a later stage when you've realised that they're really interested in you and they want to go and hire you for a job.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anything else, Kirby?
No, I think you have it all covered, Edel.
Okay. John, have you anything else?
Everything's covered.
Okay. So I suppose just to summarise then in terms of the key learnings today, the 2 most important documents that will represent you will be your CV and your cover letter. So keep your cover letter short, to the point, and professional and well laid out with no typos or mistakes in it. In terms of your CV, then I would say have specific headings like work experience, profile, education, have a hobby section at the end, and additional skills or achievements that you've achieved in your previous roles. You want your CV to stand out for all the right reasons, so lay it out well. As I say, the recognised font to use in medical devices would be Times Roman numeral 10 to 11. Avoid any kind of fancy fonts or photographs or anything like that. And if you have any queries about your CV or putting it together, you can visit our website on Collins McNicholas or talk to one of our recruitment professionals, and they'll give you assistance. There's lots of templates available on the website to help you as well. Thanks very much for coming today. Thank you.
Thanks, Edel.
Appreciate meeting you.
Thanks.